My name's Olivia Padua. I am a Wells Fargo campus program manager, and I support colleges and universities in San Diego, Arizona, Nevada, and New Mexico. And what I get to do is I provide financial education for the students, the faculty, and the staff at those universities. So I'm really blessed to be able to do that. I've actually been working for Wells Fargo for over 12 years now. And I started in the bank branches, and I did everything from being a teller and a banker to managing branches. And then I got this opportunity to be a Wells Fargo program manager, which really focuses on financial education and financial health, which is a great passion of mine. So I get the ability to go out and talk to people about how to budget, how to understand credit, if they have lending needs, really what to look out for so that they can maximize on that all the way down to retirement. So I don't see this as a job. I see this as really a calling, and I feel really, really blessed to be here. Really, it's those life events that we want to make sure that we can take action on. So understanding not only how to budget, but taking small steps to make those budgets and understanding how credit works, right? I think really the focus of the workshops that I do is making sure that you have the foundation to build and the tangible tools to have the future that you want. Thinking about COVID right now, one of the things that we emphasize is having at least 6 to 12 months of emergency savings. And, we always think about, well, why do I need that? Or is that really important? And this is a perfect time when we need to, when we're going to be leveraging that, right? So planning ahead, thinking ahead, so that when these emergencies do happen, we have something to fall back on. That's what I get to do every day, is really think about how can we create a plan for you that's realistic and that can help you and support you when these unexpected events happen. I don't think anyone anticipated for this to happen, and some of us were able to plan and some of us weren't. And so now it's my turn to go back and teach people how to make sure that they're taking the right steps so that this doesn't happen again.
Off camera, you and I talked about the fact that how do you budget when you have no income coming in? Right. Some of us are relying on subsidies, government subsidies. Give me some insights. And are there online tools that I could utilize in starting to frame a budget and a spending plan?
Well, yes, it's very hard to budget when you don't feel like you have enough inflow, right? But it's really taking a look at where are all my expenses going, and the cash that I am getting in, how am I maximizing that? A lot of people are getting some assistance from the government one way or another through our CARES funds. So how are you maximizing that money and making sure that you're making that money stretch? Let's take a look at those expenses that perhaps we can change our habits so that we can make sure that we're taking advantage of or make sure that we're spending our money the right way, right? And so it's really taking a look at every line item. And there's tons of tools out there. I mean, Wells Fargo has a budget site where you can it's called My Money Map, and it allows you to map out where your money's going. But along with us, there's tons of tools out there. I'm sure the financial institutions, all of them usually have some version of a budgeting tool. Some people like the old school spreadsheets, and that works too, right? It's whatever works for you. But it's really just understanding, where's my money coming in, how is it leaving, and the timing of it, right? Do I get the bills mostly at the beginning of the month or the end? How am I going to make that money that's coming in last that long? So it's definitely possible. I've had people with high and low incomes create their budget and be able to save. It's just about being strategic, and that's what we do. With more time, I'd be able to share that. Richard, today I invited some of my colleagues to come and talk to us about these topics. So I have Russ Renault, who is an expert in small business and consumer credit, Joanne Landa, who brings a wealth of knowledge around investment and retirement planning with over 25 years of experience in the financial industry, and Martin Sanchez has years of experience and in-depth knowledge on the mortgage industry.
Good afternoon. My name is Russ Renault, and I'm a retail and small business credit consultant for Wells Fargo Bank. I'm supporting our branch and regional teams here in the Inland Empire and across LA, even up into Ventura County. I've been with Wells Fargo for about 15 years and just very proud to be able to provide tools, resources, guidance to help our branch teams provide sound financial advice around lending options for our customers in need. First of all, I would say do your research because there's a lot of different programs out there to help small businesses, both at the national level and at the local level. You've got all the various programs through the SBA, such as obviously the Paycheck Protection Program, which we were just talking about. Now that one is specifically a loan. There's also the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or EIDL. People refer to it as an EIDL loan. That is a loan, but there is a grant component to it as well. There's also bridge loans that are available through the SBA, and they're exactly what it sounds like. It's a type of loan that would bridge the gap between trying to, get your business through this, and then also the expenses associated with trying to get the business reopened and reestablished. So there's a number of different programs. Obviously, we're working out there with a lot of the CDFIs, or the Community Development Financial Institutions, other various local, city, and state relief funds and things of that nature. So I would say just do your research on all of the resources that are available right now, because they are abundant. And certainly this is, if anything, there has never been a more critical time, I think, for a small business to take advantage of resources that are available.
I think you kind of alluded to it in the first question that I asked you, but if you would talk about how many small business owners that I guess Wells Fargo has helped impact over this period of time, COVID-19.
So first, since the beginning of the health crisis, we've been able to provide substantial credit and liquidity to customers to try to weather through this storm. In March alone, in fact, that first month that all of this hit, we had our commercial customers that were leveraging over $80 billion to be able, in loan commitments, to be able to help them get through this. Now, on top of existing loan commitments that we've already put in place, at the very beginning, just in those first few weeks, from about March 9th through, I believe it was about April 24th, we helped more than 1.7 million customers, and this is consumer, small business, commercial customers, with either deferring payments, reversing fees, extending maturity dates, things of that nature. In fact, we were able to either defer or waive over 1.4 million fees, which equaled about $75 million, back to customers to help support them right now. Added to all that, I mentioned earlier the Wells Fargo Foundation. We've already donated over $17 million specifically to small business, and that's part of our $175 million commitment to providing relief during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we're continuing to do so. As I mentioned, we're working with many local and state relief funds, city relief funds, various CDFIs, and a number of other programs that are out there to provide financial and technical guidance to entrepreneurs right now. I just have to tell you, I've never been more proud to work for this company. During this just very, very challenging time for so many people.
I use the word misconceptions, but is this a loan forgiveness? Is it a grant? Kind of clarify all this for me as a business owner and somebody that's maybe it hasn't impacted in the first couple of months, but moving forward, maybe it's a program that they really should look into.
Absolutely. So, first, that is a great question, and probably one of the most common questions that I'm receiving in my role from the field, because our business owners are wondering, what does the loan forgiveness look like? How does that work? So first, let me say that we are definitely here to help Wells Fargo customers try to understand and create some clarity around how their Paycheck Protection Program loans may be eligible for forgiveness. So the program itself and rules around forgiveness, as I'm sure you're aware, have definitely been evolving quite a bit here over time. And so my first recommendation would be to visit the PPP loan forgiveness website at wellsfargo.com. It is going to be the most up-to-date information, and we're continuing to update that daily, sometimes hourly, as more information becomes available from the SBA. So if you have received a PPP loan from Wells Fargo, here's a few things that you need to know. And again, this is right now, and I'll just reiterate, the information is evolving, so please check that website I mentioned. Now, first, the deposit that you received is technically a disbursement of a loan. However, your initial payments are going to be deferred for the first 6 months. So that's the first thing that you need to know. Again, it is a loan, and as such, it does accrue interest. It'll accrue interest at a rate of 1%, and that's including during the deferment, that initial deferment period. Now, according to the Small Business Administration, your entire Wells Fargo PPP loan may be forgiven if you're using the money for eligible expenses. Keep in mind, though, that the details on some of those eligible expenses are we're still kind of waiting for clarity, and it's dependent on some forthcoming information from the SBA. You will be able to apply for PPP loan forgiveness through your online banking portal. So for us, that would be business online banking or your commercial electronic office or CEO platform, whichever platform your business specifically is using. But generally, you won't be able to even apply for loan forgiveness until at least 8 weeks after you've received that initial disbursement. When you do apply, you're going to need to provide documentation for all of those eligible expenses. So definitely keep that in mind, and please, please, please keep track of all of your expenses during this time. After the 6-month deferment period, any balance that is still outstanding, including any interest that's accrued and any balance that has not been forgiven, will become a term loan at a rate of 1%, and you will need to start making monthly payments. But again, that's only on a balance that's in excess of any forgiven amount. So to wrap it up here, as you begin to use the money, start making payments, start gathering documentation, I'm certain that a lot more questions are going to come up. So again, one more time, I'm going to tell you, please refer to the Wells Fargo PPP loan forgiveness website on wellsfargo.com. That will continue to be updated, and you can also check out the SBA's website at sba.gov for information as it evolves on their end.
So Joanne Landa, I'm a senior investment strategist at Wells Fargo in the private bank, and I work with high net worth individuals and families. I also work with retirement plans and philanthropic groups to help them manage their liquid assets of their portfolios.
I'm jumping right into it.
Sure.
I read something the other day that came across, I'm watching news feeds all the time. Are we in a recession? And really, what does that mean? And how long will it take to recover?
So all indicators are pointing that we are in a recession now. So the formal measurement of a recession is based on 2 quarters of negative GDP growth, which we haven't quite finished this quarter yet. But all the underlying economic indicators are adding up that we're fairly confident to be able to say, yes, we're in a recession at this point. In terms of the timing, this has been a very, very rapid decrease into a recession. And that really was based on the controls and the information put into place to help restrict the spread of COVID-19 at this point. So this has been a huge market that has been researched and analyzed and written about for many years, more specifically, I think in the last decade. And part of that is as we see this trend, what we refer to as this transition of wealth, you're seeing, meaning the wealth is being passed from generation to generation. So we're now in that time period where we're seeing wealth of the baby boomer era being transitioned to the next generation. And as a result, greater percentages of women are now making those investment decisions or creating the wealth themselves. And so that's bringing a different aspect to it. In terms of investment strategies, I have not found in my personal experience that the strategies themselves are different. It's the approach to those strategies that women have opened up. Meaning, referring back to my comment about why are you investing? I have found that women take a more holistic approach to why they're trying to grow their wealth. There are different aspects. It's not just a competition. It's not just where can I get the highest return in the shortest amount of time. It's about what will the growth in these assets do for myself personally? What will it do for my family? What will it do for the business that I want to try to invest in or that I want to expand? And so the aspect in terms of the questions and the answers of why women invest are different in my experience, not necessarily how to implement the strategies. There are several resources available to learn about the investment markets and see what's right for you. At Wells Fargo, we have access on our website to something called the Wells Fargo Investment Institute. We also have Wells Fargo Wealth Planning. And so through our website, the Investment Institute gets very technical and we talk about the macro issues as well as the individual strategies. But then in our planning portion of our website, we actually talk about the quality and versus the quantity type of information. So the family dynamics, the relationship in the goals and objectives. And so the planning piece is a very important place to start to answer those questions from kind of a philosophical and what's important to you as an individual and as a family. And then the Investment Institute provides the deep dive into the research and the analytics. So those two resources combined are very helpful for individuals if they would like to reach out and look at those.
Since the 2008 financial crisis, Richard, we have realized the most important thing we can do is have a lot of speed to providing relief to our borrowers. So at Wells Fargo, we wanted to make it easy for our borrowers to apply for forbearance. So that's what we did. They can call us. They can apply on wellsfargo.com. But also now that the 90 days is coming up, the initial 90 days end is coming up, we want to make sure it's also easy for them to continue to extend it if that's what they need. So on wellsfargo.com, they can go ahead and just with a few clicks, let us know they still need assistance. And that's what we'll do for them. We'll help them during these challenging times and still continue to be there for them. So I'm part of the mortgage outreach team within Wells Fargo that works with our Wells Fargo home lending borrowers who are facing financial challenges, especially now during COVID-19. And in particular, I work with HUD-approved nonprofit housing agencies that assist our borrowers when they're having difficulty making their payments and other issues in their lives. So the payment suspension program, also known as forbearance, is an opportunity to temporarily suspend your mortgage payments for initial 90 days, and it can be renewed up to 3 times for up to 12 months. However, you will have to pay back that mortgage when it's convenient for you, whether it be at the end of your forbearance period or at the end of the loan. We'll work with you to make sure they're able to have a good time that works with you and your household, and make sure you're financially successful.